We have a major situation unfolding in Kebbi State right now that has left everyone with their mouths wide open. And trust me, you need to hear every single detail of this story because it is not just about money anymore, it has now turned into a national security matter. We are talking about the former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, and the shocking discovery that was reportedly made inside his massive residence in Kebbi State. Just when we thought the drama with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, regarding the billions of naira and the massive properties was the peak of the matter, a new twist has emerged that has completely changed the narrative. Reports coming in this week, specifically around Monday, January 12, 2026, indicate that operatives of the EFCC who went to Malami's country home for a routine search regarding his financial crimes trial stumbled upon something they were definitely not looking for: a stash of guns and ammunition. Yes, you heard me right. This is the gist that is shaking the entire political landscape of Nigeria as we speak. Now, let's break this down properly, because the details are quite intense. It appears that the EFCC operatives were executing a search warrant as part of their ongoing investigation into the alleged money laundering and illicit asset acquisition case that Malami is currently facing. They went into the property expecting to find perhaps more documents, maybe some hidden cash or evidence of property ownership, but instead, sources are saying they found a significant number of firearms and ammunition. This discovery was so unexpected and so outside the mandate of the EFCC that they had to immediately contact the Department of State Services, the DSS. You know, the EFCC deals with financial crimes, money laundering, fraud, embezzlement. They don't deal with gun running or illegal possession of firearms. So when they saw the weapons, they knew this was a case for the secret police, the DSS. It is reported that the anti-graft agency has now officially handed over this aspect of the investigation to the DSS for a comprehensive probe. This means Malami is no longer just fighting to save his wealth, he might be fighting to explain why a private citizen, even a former top government official, would allegedly have such an arsenal in his private residence. This development explains a lot about what has been happening in the courts recently. If you have been following the news, you would know that Malami was granted bail last week by Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court in Abuja. The bail was set at 500 million naira with two sureties in like sum. But here's the catch. Despite being granted bail, Malami is still sitting inside the Kuje Correctional Center. Many people were wondering, why hasn't he perfected his bail? Is 500 million naira too hard for a man who allegedly owns the university and hotels? But now, with this news of the guns found in his house, insiders are suggesting that Malami might be taking things slowly on purpose. The theory on the streets is that he's safer inside Kuje Prison than he is outside, because the moment he steps out, the DSS operatives who are reportedly lurking around the precincts of the prison might pick him up immediately for questioning regarding the arms discovery. It's a game of chess, and right now, the former AGF is in a very tight corner. Let's talk about the raid itself. It wasn't a small operation. The EFCC has been meticulous in this 2026 crackdown. They didn't just go to one house. They have been looking at properties across Abuja, Kano, and Kebbi. But the Kebbi raid was the one that exposed this new dimension. Can you imagine the shock of the operatives? You are looking for bank statements and property deeds, and you open a room or a safe and see guns. The question everyone is asking is, what were those arms for? Was it for protection? Was it for something else? In a state like Kebbi, which has seen its fair share of the purity challenges, finding a cache of arms in the home of a former chief law officer is extremely disturbing. It sends a wrong signal to the populace. The DSS investigation will likely focus on whether these guns were licensed, how they were procured, and if they have been used for any activities. If they are prohibited firearms, then that's a whole new criminal charge entirely separate from the money laundering case. And speaking of the money laundering case, we cannot ignore the sheer scale of the assets involved. Just a few days ago, on January 8, 2026, the Federal High Court ordered the interim forfeiture of 57 properties linked to Malami. 57 properties. We are not talking about small boys' quarters here. We are talking about massive assets valued at approximately 213 billion naira. The list is mind-blowing. It includes the Rayhaan University in Kebbi, which has a permanent site, a temporary site, and even a third site. The value of the university assets alone is in the tens of billions. Then there are hotels, multiple hotels in Kano, Abuja, and Kebbi. There is the Zeno Hotel in Kano, the Mitak Hotels in Abuja, both in Jabi and Maitama, and the Harmony Hotels in Gaki. These are high-end establishments. The EFCC says these properties are reasonably suspected to be proceeds of unlawful activities. They believe the money used to build or buy these places came from the public treasury or from illicit deals during his 8 years as the Attorney General. The court order by Justice Emeka Nwite was very clear. The properties are to be temporarily forfeited to the federal government, and the EFCC was directed to publish the order in a national newspaper so that anyone who claims to own them or has an interest can come forward within 14 days to show cause why they should not be permanently forfeited. This is the standard procedure, but for Malami, it is a humiliation of the highest order. This was the man who was arguably the most powerful minister in the Buhari administration. He was the one giving legal advice to the government, the one overseeing the fight against corruption. Now, in 2026, he is the one in the dock facing charges of stealing the Commonwealth to build a personal empire. The irony is thick, and it is a lesson to every public office holder that power is transient. Today you are the hunter, tomorrow you could be the hunted. If you are enjoying this breakdown and you want to keep getting the real gist about what is happening with our politicians and their hidden secrets, please take a second right now to smash that like button. It really helps the video spread so more Nigerians can know the truth. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Click that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a breaking update. We are following this story bumper to bumper, and you don't want to be left out. Now, back to the guns and ammo situation. The involvement of the DSS changes everything. The EFCC is a civil agency. They prosecute financial crimes. The DSS deals with state security. When the DSS invites you, it's a different ballgame. The allegations of gun running or illegal possession of firearms carry heavy prison sentences and are not easily bailable. This might be why the legal team of the former AGF is scrambling. If he is arrested by the DSS, he could be held in detention for a long time under national security laws while they investigate the source of the weapons. The speculation is that the arms might be connected to political thugs or private militias, which is a common accusation in Nigerian politics. But until the DSS completes its probe, we can only guess. However, the fact that the weapons were found in his private residence is damning. A man of his stature should know better than anyone the laws regarding firearms in Nigeria. You cannot just stockpile weapons in your house without strict authorization, and even then, there are limits to the type of caliber you can own. The people of Kebbi State are watching this unfold with mixed feelings. On one hand, Malami is a son of the soil, a man who brought a university to the state which created jobs and opportunities. But on the other hand, the sheer display of wealth in the midst of poverty has always angered many. The Rayhaan University, the rice mills, the tomato factories, all linked to him, were seen by some as development, but by others as evidence of looting. Now, with the news of guns, the fear is that there was a darker side to his influence in the state. Was he preparing for a war? Was he afraid of his own people? These are the questions locals are asking in Birni Kebbi today. The finding of the arms has shattered the image of the pious legal luminary that he tried to project. It paints a picture of a man who was paranoid and perhaps ready to use violence to protect his interests. Let's look at the timeline again to understand how we got here. The trouble started seriously for Malami in late 2025 when the EFCC began closing in. He was arraigned in December 2025 on a 16-count charge of money laundering. The charges detail how he, his wife, and his son allegedly used various companies to wash billions of naira. They mentioned companies like Rahmania Properties Limited and others used to buy these luxury homes. The EFCC says they traced 9 billion naira in cash flows that cannot be explained by his lawful earnings. Remember, a public officer's salary is known. Even with ESTA codes and allowances, you cannot save 213 billion naira in 8 years. It is mathematically impossible. So the burden of proof is on him to show where the money came from. Did he inherit it? Did he win a lottery? Or did he dip his hand into the cookie jar? The court proceedings have been dramatic. Malami pled not guilty, of course. His lawyers fought hard for bail, arguing that he is a senior lawyer and a former minister who would not run away. The judge granted the bail, but the conditions were tough. Landed property in Maitama or Asokolo worth the bail sum. And now, even if he meets those conditions, the DSS is waiting at the gate. It's like jumping from the frying pan into the fire. The strategy of staying in prison might buy him some time, but he cannot stay there forever. Eventually, he will have to face the DSS investigators and explain the guns. It is also interesting to note the reaction of the current administration. The government of the day seems to be determined to show that there are no sacred cows.
The fact that the EFCC and DSS are moving against such a high-profile figure from the immediate past administration shows that the renewed hope agenda is taking the corruption fight seriously in 2026, or as some critics might say, it's a political vendetta. But when you look at the evidence, 57 properties, billions in accounts, and now guns, it's hard to argue that this is just politics. The physical evidence is overwhelming. You cannot plant a whole university. You cannot plant 57 massive buildings across 4 states. These are tangible assets that the EFCC has marked and seized. The list of seized properties gives us a tour of Malami's taste for luxury. In Abuja alone, he has properties in the most expensive districts, a luxury duplex on Amazon Street in Maitama, bought for 500 million naira, but now valued at nearly 6 billion naira after enhancement. Another property on Rhine Street, Maitama, a massive hotel in Jabi. In Kano, the Zeno Hotel is a landmark. In Kebbi, aside from the university, there are filling stations, a school, and a massive residence, the same residence where the guns were allegedly found. It seems he was building a parallel government infrastructure with his private wealth.